Kānaka Maoli resistance to criminalization and weaponization of law. And I am Dr. Lani Cupchoy, and I'm in the earlier panel. And then I'm gonna, but before we begin, I feel like we need to do a little bit of cultural protocols. First, I wanted us to take a moment to acknowledge that we're gathered on Indigenous land, and we're so grateful to Pequot for hosting us in this space. So can I ask everybody to please stand? And I'm like, oh my goodness, why are we standing? But let's just breathe in the face. I like to begin this way because I feel like all of our people, right, we've gone through so much, and what's important is we breathe, right? We're breathing and we're sharing collective space. So everybody just take a nice deep breath in, hold it a little bit, and release out. We're gonna do it 2 more times. Breathe in, hold it a little bit, and push out. Right? We should talk a little bit about the aloha, right? Ha is the breath of life for us. So if we say aloha, right, that means we are giving love out, right? So we'll do it 1 more time. Just breathe in, last time. Hold and push out. All right. So we again want to thank our brothers and sisters for being here and for hosting us. Thank you so much. Please be seated. And one of the things I wanted to share with you is for this panel, we had to pivot a little bit. That's kind of a word I've been using a lot yesterday and today. One of our panelists actually last night, coming from Maui, but last night he actually had some heart palpitations. We had to rush him to the hospital, and he is about to have surgery this afternoon, so he could not make our panel. And then he had the audacity of asking me, Lani, can I Zoom it? And I said, no, you cannot. So, we would like to honor him and send him really good healing energy during this time. And I'm going to ask our brother Kala to go ahead and pule in our Olemo language.
E ulumai ke kumai lalumai e o na hua una honua o kaulue e ulumai e ulumai e ulumai e ulumai ke kumai lalumai e o na mea una honua o kaulue e ulumai e ulumai ke kupumai lalomai e o na hua una honua o ke lue e ulumai e
Thank you, Vernon. All right. So today's panel it's difficult to call ourselves trespassers, right? We were thinking about how do we title this, right? But that's not really a term that we self-ascribe to ourselves, but it's the term that has been actually put on us, right, as human beings. And today you're going to actually hear from different experiences. For me personally, we talk about, displacement. We talk about, you're going to hear the stories of people who have been arrested, people who have been dispossessed, people who have been harassed, from spaces that we should have access to, right? And you're going to also hear about experiences with the law in the state of Hawaii, and the way in which it's been weaponized against its people when it's supposed to be protecting its people, right? So we're going to talk about that too. And then we're also going to talk about, in one case, not only wealthy developers, but also billionaires like Oprah Winfrey, who weaponize the legal system as well. We're going to hear from those cases too. So hang tight for that, because all these stories are very, very powerful. So I thought we'd begin with a short film that talks exactly about the cases that you're going to see in points. And then we'll come back and then we'll have them each share comments about, the film, and then we'll I'll open it up to Q&A, and we really want to make it more dialogue. So we hope that in this space it's not only safe, but for each and every one of you and whatever you've experienced with your tribal lands, that perhaps you can, connect with us as well and have a discussion about it. So without further ado, we'll take a look at this one. Overall, they have 50% of people. How many people are that? Hate, coercion, falsified deeds, and the lack of over and run by settlers that were designed to raise us. This history of colonial violence removes Hawaiians from the land. It builds housing with big charges, all while treating themselves as heroes for creating something we never would have needed if they hadn't taken us off the land. This contentious bad trouble is happening now in my own Maui. Maui Economic Opportunity, a nonprofit organization, was gifted land over a decade ago to use for farming and social service programs, not development. The title in question was passed out from the sugar company, one of the many unscrupulous entities the sugar barons responsible for the overthrow of some nation. Many ʻohana still exist who have title and interest in these lands. Upon learning of the future affordable housing project potentially decimate white Americans forever change the run of the ʻāina, the heirs of Kaniloa, who have a legal claim to this land, took a stand and repatriated their land to protect it. MEO responded by taking two family members to court for trespassing, and they prevailed in the case, but the burden for trespassing is not the same for private case as the appropriate venue to the court document states that they don't have sufficient evidence to entitle MEO to apply, which means they may have some interest, but they haven't proven that they have all the interest. Any error outside of the two trespassers can come forward anytime and make a claim. MEO has been misleading the public with a false narrative that they own the land. They have harassed the ʻohana, removed heirs from the parcel, the help of armed security guards and Maui Police Department. They have people arrested and removed personal property that they left outside during the biggest storm in years, causing irreparable harm and damage. Maui County offered to do a land swap, to give them an offer and give them twice as much land as they could build 4 to 5 times more housing over a non-contentious, less sensitive parcel. They declined. Land issues in Hawaii are complex, nuanced, political history of settler colonialism. You think you are in America, you are not in America. You are in a colony that is irreconcilable, that was forcibly taken, just as, I might add, all Eastern Europe was forcibly taken by the Soviet Union, which America seems very, very bad place. The bad Soviet Union, while the bad United States of America took Puerto Rico to Alaska, to go in that, it took Hawaii, it took Guam, it took Micronesian, Palau. You had better learn that history.
because you are the recipient of an imperialist tradition. Kānaka Maoli across the ʻāina are struggling to hold on to ancestral lands. As settlers flock to our shores, developers try to keep up with demands.
Hi, welcome to my garden. Everything is acceptable from your tour.
I love to provide bread for moving a lot of contributions for it. But there's a piece that she's missing when it comes to people's indigeneity to the place. And she just met in Tokyo, and I happen to know an ʻohana that actually owned that land. That's right. And Oprah's people took this family to court. And of course, this family, like many Kānaka families, could not afford a lawyer, so they represented themselves. At one point, it was acknowledged that they had interest, but the judge still ruled with this paper. So her now has a big, beautiful house, and this family was displaced again. She's just one person. You think about all the billionaires who moved here. Jeff Bezos just bought property with referred to as Foxwoods, and supposedly he owned I'm pretty sure that's possible. Hawaiian and then of course there's Larry Ellison who bought the island of Lani and turning it into a ritual paradise. So we have all these contradictions where we have all this wealth and paradise and happy because we've been displaced and replaced. That's like one of the major tenets of sovereign colonialism. To understand the influx of settlers for the last 130 years created this problem for our people. This is happening to all of us. Our people were silenced for generations, whether it was through genocide or discrimination, essentially preventing many previous generations from being able to advocate. Many Hawaiians have faced increased access to information, and a deeper understanding of the process of healing from historic trauma. Many of our people are empowered to reclaim what's rightfully ours. Because this is about so much more than just Bible. This is about our deep connection to our sense of place and belonging. Being able to live as Hawaiians in community. We need our ʻāina. Needs us. Anything less is genocide. Keep me safe. We need life. We need love. I'm gonna breathe a little bit. So I happen to be the filmmaker that created this documentary short a couple years ago, and I'm just going to speak very briefly because I want to open it up for them to share their spaces. I actually spoke a lot earlier, but I was first asked by who I consider my brother Chucky, who came to me because of the time they were occupying land, ʻāina. And he asked me to get involved in this, and I said, of course. And so he's no longer here with us, just in spirit, right? He's with us in spirit. But the work continues. And I have to say, I want to thank each of the panelists for being here because you see their faces, but they're here, but they're still experiencing it. It's not like this is a history that happened so long ago. They're still experiencing it now. It's an ongoing battle in different ways, and that's one of the reasons why we said we really need to talk about these issues. So I'm going to hand the mic over. We'll begin with Lala.
to share which those are important. And we'll go maybe 10 minutes apiece to share whatever you feel is important. You don't have to go the full 10 minutes. You can if you want to. But just kind of share what you feel is important. You've seen this film a lot. We've gone to a lot of different panels. We've spoken, even at the United Nations, about our issues. We talk about, is Kānaka Maoli, are we really experiencing a form of genocide? We are, cultural genocide, absolutely. So perhaps we can start teasing out these feelings. I'd like to start with just one question, which is address the experience of feeling like a trespasser on your own land. And what does that mean to you?
Oh, sorry. Well, this trespasser paid $1. I wasn't even a trespasser. So I know if some of you saw the last one, I mentioned that in the court, I was a trespasser, but I'm not, and they fined me $1. But the best thing about it was that the other party, which was MEO, they had to spend $100,000 for that court hearing. So that's a victory to me as a, I guess, trespasser that, if they want to talk money, then I won. I got the dollar deal. So I just wanted to mention that. But as a trespasser, I always, whenever I see, and the kids know me already, my own children, the children work with, when we see those signs that say no trespassing, they know that means I'm called Auntie Lala. To Auntie Lala, that means e komo mai. So e komo mai means you are welcome, come on in. So there is no lease, I feel like, on Maui where you see no trespassing signs. That does not refer to me because I am a Kānaka Maoli. I believe I am of my ancestors who are of that place, who have their iwi there. So there is no trespassing. I'm not a trespasser. And so as a little girl too, I would just run the whole place like it was my own background, my playground, which I really actually thought it was, because I never went home. I didn't want to go home because I knew I had to do chores. So I ran that whole place, and I know how to do that. I climbed the mountains, went into the bushes, and just was so free, So that's not a trespasser. There's somebody that lives freely. That's a Kānaka Maoli. That's somebody of the land, right? You go there and you be who you are, what your ancestors were. We ate off of the land, and because I didn't want to go home and eat lunch, I went and I grabbed the guava off of the tree, I grabbed the lily koi, and I made sure I ate my food, so I didn't go without food, just so you know. And I just lived my life, So if that's what a trespasser is, then, wow. But I know for sure I am not a trespasser, and I never will be. I never paid the dollar anyways because I never believed that I was a trespasser. So till this day, I don't pay no dollar. It's because of who I know and my identity of who I know I am. Because the genealogy that I've done, with who my Tutu, which I mentioned before, he's 4 generations. She's my great grandfather, who was honored the Land Commission Award for our ʻohana. So to this day, I have my cousin here too, who also fight for the land as well. She's not a trespasser. In fact, she and we decided to just get the tent, go on the land, and we even made we did our own opening for the fence. We made a fence so we could enter, right? We didn't touch nobody else's things. We made our own fence. We went in there and we put our tent out and we stayed on the ʻāina because we knew that we weren't trespassers. We were of the land. That's where we belong. So that's no trespassing for us as cousins. We don't believe in the trespassing because we run the land. We run freely. And that's the beauty about knowing who you are and the identity that you have as a Kānaka Maoli. And the genealogy which roots you to who you are. And because of my mother and my cousin's mother, they were the only 2 girls at the time that did. And they were our kind of time where you don't speak the language kind of thing. So we don't know the language actually. So we're the generation that never was taught that language, Hawaiian language. But then here came along the next generation, which is my son, who actually he went on his own and he did it. And he learned the language. He has a daughter as well. And now we have the next generation also, the generation after him, his other cousins who are now speaking the language. So the language lives. Yeah, so the language still lives in our ʻohana, in Hawaii too as well. It never died. It will never die. And that's the beauty. If you come to Hawaii, you will hear the little children even speaking the language. So that's the beauty of all us trespassers, I guess, that we can speak the language now. When I couldn't speak the language, my mom even gave me a name, which was Laura. Sorry if there's any Lauras in here, but I was like, what was my mom on? What was she on? Calling me Laura. I mean, how colonized is that, right? And then I met his dad, whose last name is Johnson. So here I am, Laura Johnson. So they look for Laura Johnson. They're looking for somebody, a colonizer. Right? So that's, I make a joke out of my name, but really, my name, I go by Lala. As a little girl, I always called Lala by my cousins, by my friends. So I grew up with that name. At least I had a Hawaiian name. All of us, my brothers and sisters, we had English names because it was during that time. But when it came to this generation, they're all in Hawaiian names. So that's the beauty of the change. So you can see the generational changes, right? Of how I felt like we were genocide. My parents, pretty much in that generation, that the language was taken away and it's coming back. We are rising. I mean, just with my son, his generation, the next cousins, you should see they're speaking the language, and I'm over there like me and my cousin who we didn't even learn the language. They're talking to us, and we're like, I means yes. Aloha, that means hi. Mahalo, so we do the basics. But they can just, it's just a beautiful thing to hear. So, as far as trespassers, no, we own the land, so not own. We can't say own, but we are caretakers of the land. We have kuleana, responsibility to the land. So there's no such thing as trespassers, right? And I know you have a story almost similar to what we go through as well. So and you feel that as well, that trespassers, that's a colonized name, right? That's a colonized word. So we don't go by that. E komo mai, come on in, yeah? That means come on in. So whenever we see that no trespassing, that's to me, it's time to come in. So mahalo.
Yeah, mahalo. And I just wanted to plug the fact that while I was, finishing up school on another island to get my degree done, it was my mom who, during the middle of the pandemic, with her colonized name, who went and reoccupied our land. And so, as much as we all are dealing with the legacy and ongoing effects of settler colonialism and language destruction, none of that prevented my mom and her generation from fighting so that my generation, the generation after me, are able to make the stands to reclaim that which was taken from us. Yeah, for the question about trespassing on our own lands, it is the mindset of colonialism and the goal of colonialism to make you as a Native person feel alien, right? To make you feel as if you do not belong. And for a long time, I never grew up with the language. I had to go and pick that up myself. But that feeling of not being belonging, you being the one stared at. Why are you here out in this tourist area filled with white folks, staring at you as if you're the one that doesn't belong? That's something that we feel viscerally. That's something we feel somatically in our body. Yeah, and that's exactly what the accusation of being a trespasser does. It makes us feel as if we are the enemy. We are the stranger. When In fact, it is the land that is constantly calling us into belonging, constantly being there for us and knows us, even when we're trying to recover and know ourselves. My story regarding the case for Kohimana is very strange. I was, like I said, I was on another island. I wasn't even present at the land. And what was happening, how I got involved as a defendant, was that my mom and my father needed me to type up a letter. And I was like, you know what, why don't we type this up in Olelo Hawaii, in the Hawaiian language, and we'll give them an extra, barrier to their having to check our titles and look through things. So I sent the letter to MEO, to the CEO in Hawaiian. And shortly after that, I received a court summons or file against me. And I was like, for trespassing on Kohimana, on the land. And I was like, what? I'm here on another island. I haven't set foot on that particular part of our ancestors' ʻāina. Why are you sending me this thing? So, long story short, I wasn't a trespasser. I couldn't have been because I wasn't present. But nonetheless, they still sent that out to me. And I think it's because they were afraid. They were afraid of Hawaiian as a language. They were afraid and they reacted. But in court, it was kind of a hilarious situation because I literally had to sit there and be like, I wasn't there. Even their witnesses came and they asked them, did you see him ever come on the land? They're like, no. And the judge kind of gave a look at the prosecuting attorney. Was like, why are you wasting my time? But that's true of settler colonialism. Yeah, it wastes all of our time, and it takes the time that we should be using to be on our land, to be with our people, practicing our traditions and innovating who we are as well into the future. So yeah, I guess that's how I would answer that question.
Hello. I'll answer that trespassing question in this manner. Anybody know who Oprah Winfrey is? Yeah. Okay. We saw a little bit of Oprah on the film. Yeah, that Ms. Dr. Cupchoy did. Yeah. One day, my family's name came up in the newspaper, in the Maui News, and read the article. We were summoned to court, and based upon land tenureship that went back to the 1840s, 1850s, Oprah Winfrey and her attorneys felt that they had title to some property, that they needed to extinguish any maybe people's interests. Okay, so they said they had title to this property up in Kula, where Oprah Winfrey, you saw her holding her vegetables. That property was our family's property. It consists of 15 acres. From around 2002 to probably about 2 years ago, Oprah started purchasing land in this particular area where our family land is. Started with 200 acres. She bought 500 acres. And then this 1,000 acres she bought. She's amassed almost 2,000 acres. About 200 acres in ʻāina on the other side of the island, and the rest all in this area called Kamaoli. 2,000 acres, okay? And so in her attempts to, let's say, extinguish the actual title holders, she had to call on the actual owners to court. That's called a quiet title lawsuit, right? And so in her efforts to do that, she's a plaintiff, we're the defendants, we show up, and we have to show the court our paper, documentation, title, genealogy, and all the title chain to us. So we do that. They can't prove that. So our family wins summary judgment. So summary judgment basically says that the title still rests in this family. Oprah doesn't have title. So what Oprah needs to say dispossess the family of their ownership rights she has to continue her lawsuit through what they call, in a quiet title, called adverse possession. And adverse possession, if you folks are aware of, you have 4 or 5 elements that you have to, and I repeat, there's 4 to 5 elements that you have to prove every element to dispossess the actual title holder of the property. So Oprah, when she purchased land, I'll go back a little bit, she didn't purchase a warranty deed that warrants that the titles have been checked top to bottom and there's free from any liens, encumbrances, and so on. Okay? They couldn't do that for her because she purchased a quit claim deed. And I think we talked about that a little bit earlier. That's a lawful deed that only relinquishes what may be owned by the individual that's selling. It doesn't guarantee or warrant that you do own what I'm selling you. Okay? Oprah has bought over 2,000 acres of land through quit claim deeds. Okay? And see, these deeds go back, like I said, to 1845, that our ancestors did not sell. But in the American law system, through adverse possession, and I won't get too deep in that, there's 4 or 5 elements that you have to prove convincingly to the court that would allow you to take actual ownership away from the actual title holder. And so Oprah, when we won summary judgment that says we own title in the property, Oprah and her attorneys recountered and said we want a trial based upon adverse possession. So if she won at summary judgment, said, yep, judge, and the judge said, yep, you got title, we can see it, the chain of title is all clear, it's on your name. That would have been that. But they couldn't. So what I'm trying to get the point as is that ownership was still in the Kānaka Maoli family. Okay? And there's another tactic, adverse possession. She then had a trial attorney. I think she paid him $1 million, retainer fee, just to retain his services, and then to start trial. Trial lasted several weeks actually, and it's not typical for that kind of case to last that long because usually it's a slam dunk. You just go to trial, all the dispositions, everything's already, you're done, right? When the judge came back with his decision, he could not and would not address the elements of adverse possession. He gave a history of land tenureship of the Hawaiian Kingdom through the overthrow, the provisional government, the Republic of Hawaii, and into the state. And that's all he gave. When I stood up and I asked, of course he put me sat me down. He told me, it's not your turn, you're done. It's my decision. I asked him, how could that be? And of course he told me that he would have the plaintiffs take me away if I said anything else. So I actually got up and left before everything happened. Walked out because I knew what was going to happen. So he decided, and he sided with the plaintiff, which was Oprah Winfrey, and they won that case. And so it still lingers because we have ancestral burials. I've been to the burial sites. I've seen these graves, unmarked and marked graves. I know where others are unmarked. We're not allowed to go on the property. I've tried a couple times with my family members. Not allowed to go to those burials. We were they tried to scare us away, me and my children and family members. She has armed guards, and they'll open up their coat and say, hey, you belong here. Of course, they have their guns, and they're allowed to carry their guns to protect Oprah Winfrey. So not to get too long-winded, but that's my case with my family, what transpired with Oprah Winfrey, and she's continually looking to purchase more and more land. And yeah.
Every time I hear that story, my stomach just sinks, right? Because I know you talked about it was a bench journey, right? So it really was, so the first one your family won, but the second one, right?
Yeah.
It was a bench journey.
Yeah. I asked for a trial by my peers, and that was denied.
Wow. Let's start with questions and then I'll ask more. Please, can we get you a mic? Okay.
Can adverse possession work for us? Can I go to my homeland, which is my capital, possessed, ran into a lake, and made into a rich person's lake gated community? Can I go there and do exactly what they did to you? Can we use adverse possession?
You would probably want to speak to a law firm that is, really familiar with that type of thing. But you could, yes, you could use it as a positive, as you be the person that files adverse possession claim. Yeah, because if you break the adverse, there's time limits. Yeah, some states is 20 years, some states is 10, 5. See, in Hawaii, what they did was after the overthrow in 1893, the Western government, what they tried to do is shorten the years that they could take possession of lands to 5 years, to 10 years. And that's what they're doing. They're doing that today as we speak. Yeah.
To answer your question, and I don't think it's anybody that we're working with here, but we do have somebody in Hawaii who is, somebody's trying to get them out, but we're looking at using adverse possession to quiet titles. So like in Hawaii, adverse possession is actually baked into the quiet title law of the state. And so you can get a quiet title by showing you have superior title, which is, you do the title report, you compare generic title report, or you can prove that you adversely possess the land. And then in Hawaii, I think it's like in the 70s, the time period switched. So before the 70s, if you can prove that you occupied the land for 10 years, you adversely possessed it, versus after the 70s, it's 20 years. So we're asking at that time, hey, can you ask your family members if they remember and can testify to the fact that they were on that land for 10 years prior to the 70s, and they can. So the other thing about Hawaii is you can use what's called Kānaka testimony, so you can have, family members testify and say, yeah, we were using this land for hollow patches from 1950 to 1969. That testimony comes in as evidence. So you can flip it on and use adverse possession against them to answer your question.
How about here?
Here, I don't know if the state law is here, but
Contiguous.
I would imagine that you could, you like he was saying, like to I was saying, right? You have to hit those 5 elements, and so you have to basically open notoriously, continuously for a period of X amount of years, exist on that land. So as long as you hit those elements, you can adverse possess property insurance.
Thank you.
I'm gonna invite Dean to come on and take a picture. We've got a question. Do you want to come mic too? Okay.
Thank you.
What's the 5 elements are? What are the 5 elements?
Hostile, open, and notorious.
Hostile, open and notorious, continuous for the statutory period.
Yep.
That's it, right?
Yep.
And the statutory period, you have to look into the state law of what that time period is. So Hawaii recommends 20 years. I know other states have 15 years, so you have to look and find the quiet title statute of that state to know.
There's one more question. If I'm against that, what do you recommend? What's the defense?
You basically just have to poke holes in what they're claiming. So if they're, and maybe Ray has.
Yes, well, it should be open and notorious for a certain amount of time, and that depends on the jurisdiction that you're in, so they wouldn't be able to tell you anything about here in Massachusetts or Connecticut. It would be based upon what the laws in Connecticut or Massachusetts or Rhode Island. But I'm assuming that they will have to stage and Lani came down, so I didn't know if you wanted to see it. I'm happy to pass the mic, but we can continue. And are we in the question and answer session?
We are in the question.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? Comments?
I have a comment. Sorry, I just finished crying. I can't help myself whenever I hear stories about this, because although I'm kind of blessed to be here in America, but in my bloodline comes from Hawaii, King, that's exactly what's happening. And I find it so disgusting that we can't even put a foot on our own sand, on our own beaches, without people coming and yelling at us saying, "Oh, you're on our property. This was never yours to begin with. Nobody told you to come over here." And then just take it as if it was just yours. And I cry because I feel for you guys. And although I'm not there fighting with them, we're having our own issue with our house, with, people who are saying that we're liars about not having our deed. And we're trying to get it back, something that we were blessed with, because we were still paying the mortgage. And out of nowhere, the student's like, "Here's your deed, you were a part of this raffle, and you were picked." And now they're trying to say, "You didn't say that, you don't get to have this now." And I think I'm a very emotional person, I take pride in that. And I feel very, very, very much for what you guys are going through, and being called trespassers is insane to me. Absolutely insane. And I pray positive energy for you guys to pull through and actually get to the place where you guys want to be. That's all.
Model. Yes.
Anyone else? Any other comments?
Thank you, Ray, for running around for me.
Just deep gratitude to all of you for sharing. I think you mentioned also the question that was brought in about how do you keep your spirit restored and finding the solidarity. And so similarly, I'm from Borican, and just listening to the struggle and the different tools that collectively you build and the strategies is just really energizing, to keep us all going. And I think about the pieces, it's one thing is to allow ourselves to feel the journey and feel the connection to our land and our ancestors, wherever we are, because a lot of us are displaced. But then actually, for me, it's been really important to walk a similar path as y'all, looking at what are the tools we actually do need to build with our communities and translate all these really oppressive violent systems. A lot of people talk about social change, but it's what are we actually doing to build the system that protects us? So I think a lot about there's healing, but there's self-defense that we do need. So just really a lot of gratitude to all of you. Thank you so much. And here in solidarity as well.
The Hawaiians have a saying, "Inua, ihope." If you want to look to your future, you have to look at the past. And so today what I saw was youth here, invited here, and through education, through sharing, teaching our youth, things will change. We can look to the past to change our future through our children. And I think that's important. And I saw that today and I embrace that.
I've got a question.
So I know we talked a little bit about trauma, we opened that box up. But I feel like what's so important is, can you talk a little bit about, even though you're in the middle of it, what is it your path for healing? How do you feel the joy? If there's a moment of joy, if there's a moment of healing, right, you can share with each and every one of us, because we really feel, right, you've experienced in these cases.
So, like what Lani was saying earlier, that we've gone to New York and we've done this presentation. And every time we do this presentation, and I shared this before, it does re-traumatize me. And that's a real word, and that's a real action that we all go through because we're activists. And so just watching it and seeing and feeling what we went through as a family. And I think you guys know that feeling, what it feels like, because there's so much aloha, there's so much love in the ʻāina, which is the land, and not just in the land, but in our ʻohana, which is our family. I mean, they came out to Connecticut because we're ʻohana, we're family because we love doing what we do and we love each other. And just watching this over and over again, it always brings that back to me of how I stood on the other side of the fence, but that wasn't enough. And they actually, you know, they arrested someone else that I had loved also on the other side, named Laura, and watching all of that go down, and then watching them take all the private properties, our own personal things, pictures, all of those things that we lived with, and then taking them out and just saying things like, we can't do this, pretty much, because we have big trucks, you can't stop us. We have all this equipment, we have this to do, and you can't stop us from doing that. And so when I watch this, I always go back to that. But you know something, every time I watch this too, I'm getting stronger. It builds strength inside of me to know that that's my kuleana. This is where I have to, I feel that there is that space inside of me still left because of my ancestors, because my ancestor speaks to me. It speaks to us as a ʻohana that we have that responsibility to carry on, to meet people that know about the law and how to go about this and be creative with it. So this also is a strength to me, to be able to watch. And you know, being swept, and I don't know if anyone has ever been displaced, like being swept and watching it in front of your own eyes. It is very disheartening. It hurts. It's painful. It kills you inside because you know you belong there. You're not a trespasser. Your kupunas, which is our ancestors that was there, they walked that land. They practiced our culture. So how dare you even take the things that are personal to me and my ʻohana and leave that land with it, thinking that you can get away with it, right? And so we still fight and we still continue. We take care of ourselves, and the way we do it is we love our ʻohana. We stay with each other. We have our loyalty to each other. We fight. We agree to disagree sometimes, but that's what brings us together. And I feel like that is what has brought me, personally, I can speak for myself, brought me to do the fight, to do this. And also to go to nature, because nature knows all. And so I think for me, that is my self-care, and that's where I stand with this. And when I watch this all the time, that there is kuleana, the fight is not ended. So mahalo for giving us this space to express.
I wanted to ask a question to build on that, because I also was on Oahu University, and so I got to visit a few times, but I did not join the encampment. Can you talk about how long you were there and what it was like to actually live? Because the few times I went, I saw people doing cultural practice and growing things. So can you just tell us a little bit about that part?
And I think that's a good point because that's what kept us going too as well as our culture. So we got to do kapa. Kapa is pounding the mulberry bark and making it into a cloth. And what we did with that cloth was to use it to wrap our iwi, which is the bones, and that we would reinterr because of the developers that would dig it out and just leave it there. We went and we did the whole ritual and the ceremony to put it back into the ʻāina or into the pet. And so we did that. We also came together as family. There's families that have kuleana to the food, the making of the food, which is my cousin right there. She's a professional in that area. So she coordinates all of that. We have consent also, which is we have family council and we talk about the matters. We talk about what's happening, what's going on. We talk about our code of conduct that we also had on the land, and to keep it because you need order, right? And even with everything going on, the issues that may be going on with families, you still need order, and we go back to the code of conduct. So we were organized. We practiced the culture of growing plants, la'au, which is medicinal plants. We used them. We gathered as a family. You saw that. We loved being with each other, and I think that's the part that really got us through this, is that we just love being with each other. Lomi. We did lomi. Lomi is massage. That's a big thing to do, and that's all part of healing our family. And the person that she talked about, which is my cousin Chucky, who passed, that's what he did. And we did it on the ʻāina as well. We also, did I miss anything else?
Can we just acknowledge our sister?
Yes, so I wanted to acknowledge Auntie Terry. She is part of the ʻohana. That she was the one that went with me on the ʻāina. We were like, yeah, let's get our tent, let's just go. Let's do it. And so we did. So we got that in us. Like Trespasser, I don't know what that is. And just go and climb fist. But she and I went ahead and we occupied the land. And also I wanted to acknowledge even Kahala's Wahine, which is my daughter-in-law that had my granddaughter, who did pass at 2.5 years old. And she is the spirit that I keep, and that also is my strength to do this work. And so I honor her as well. And then I wanted to also acknowledge Kaniali'i. He's our hanai. And so he's been with us through the journey. He has, when we got swept, he helped us getting all his stuff back. He fought with us, alongside with us. He's on his ʻāina, and his example has been a great thing for our family. So mahalo to you and for Diego over here, who's really trying hard with us in getting our case back into the courts. And so we appreciate him too as well. And also for our brother here, James, and his wahine for coming all the way from Connecticut and joining us and sharing his story. And this is what love is all about. This is what aloha is, where we stick together and we do the fight. And we do it together, and we know we're together on this, and not to, when one is feeling down, we're there to pick them up. So we're this pod of people that we keep in our little group, in our big group actually. So mahalo.
I just have a quick question for you. Have you ever been part, or have you ever reached out to NCAI, which is the National Congress of American Indians? Just wondering if any of the resources there might be able to help you, because I remember back in the day, Senator Inouye, I think his name, he passed away in 2012, I think. But he seemed to be a huge advocate for Hawaii, but because sometimes people look one way and act another. But I'm just wondering, do you have resources here, or have you ever been at the Congress level where you can actually receive or get help? And no offense, this Congress right now kind of scares me. So, but have you ever in the past, and if it does decide to get better, think about using that as a resource as well?
Yeah, mahalo. I'm writing all these down. I know there was a brother from the last section who also, folks can keep track of that. I'm not good with the legalese and things. But we have conflicted relations with Senator Inouye. He was one of the folks who facilitated the myth of statehood. However, that's separate perhaps from the organization. So I think that's something that definitely we can probably check into and see what that might offer us in terms of pathways. But thank you, sis, for helping us. With that, thank you.
I have a question for you. You went to the United Nations, and for us, for me, for my tribe, I had to go to New Zealand and meet my Maori family to find out that the United Nations had a piece of paper that would let us fly with our feathers. So, Native folks here, even though we're part of the National Congress and all these other places, are still excluded. You didn't see us in the United Nations, did you? Now, we're not represented. The federal tribes are not represented either in the United Nations, not just the state tribes. So we're not looked at as sovereign nations in this. You have that there that we don't have here. Even though we have many Mashantuckets and there's other federal tribes that have money and power, still not represented in the United Nations. See what I'm saying? We're still not looked at as sovereign nations. Where you have that, maybe it's the island, maybe it's 1959, a little bit differently, 1520, but what I'm saying is, we're still fighting that. So I wanted to know about your experience at the United Nations because you presented there, they saw this information, and this is our stories. This is all of our stories. This is not a you're the most recent of our stories. I can tell you about my capital, it's under the water and our bones are in plant. I can tell you all the same stuff, but I want to know how you were greeted at the United Nations and how you were you respected at the United Nations, and maybe we should be fighting to be included in the United Nations. I just want to know about your experience.
So you're giving me the hard task of answering that question because I have to answer diplomatically and then we're live streaming. So let me try to say it eloquently. We were hosted by Pequot, by the abuela. I know you just stepped out, but Viviana, right, helped host us. Shout out to Vivi, wherever she is. If she's watching us, hello. In all honesty, we were a side event. That was literally the language. It was gracious enough to open a space for us. We held in a community space. We were grateful to be there. We flew out from all kinds of places just to be there. And we did have some representation there and the support, but we were hosted by another, we'll say, tribe, who was already, recognized. I'm not gonna speak for another one, but I was told that we really didn't want to be a part of the United Nations. And in fact, the best potential possible avenue, and I'm saying it diplomatically and delicately, was for us to create our own, right, connections with each other, relationships with each other, because the reality was that they're not interested in our stories. They're not interested in our struggles, and sorry, there's people that work in the UN that are hearing this, but I'm being very real. That we weren't really greeted like, wow, right? And we had just had the Lahaina wildfires that happened, so we were coming to really talk about things. And that's not to take away because what was happening at the time was Gaza, right? So we weren't trying to take away any space from what was happening there. But I don't know if that answers your question as gently as I can, right? I don't want to get myself trapped in a lie. But yes, that's the best I can say. We were a second. We were still part of it, right? But we were a second. Are there any other questions?
Questions, comments?
Did you want to share your joy?
Joy.
There's no joy. There's no joy for you. There's no joy. That's what that means. If you want to share the joy, like I don't know.
Probably we're running out of time. But, in all honesty, going through that whole long journey, high profile Oprah Winfrey, being dragged through court depositions is no fun. They dig in, lawyers can get deep and dirty, especially the plaintiffs, and they dig up everything that you think shouldn't be, and they do it. They want to hurt you, so you say stuff. Yeah. And I left. I said, I'm done, I'm moving on. It did cause some fractures in my family. And so I moved on from it. I stepped away. Lala can attest to that. I did not want to be part of it anymore. I wanted to just sail away and stuff. But something always kept calling me back, years after years. You believe in ancestral guides. In Hawaii, we believe in ancestral guides. So we always say, "Mahalo ke akua ame na aumakua." We give thanks to God and all the angels that guide us. That's our ancestors. And so, I believe there's a calling. At a certain time in my life, I got called back, and I'm here. And so there's a purpose. Sometimes we don't know the purpose, but healing, sometimes you have to walk away to heal, to build strength, and then you maybe can rejoin the fight. So I'm grateful to be here. I think the purpose for me, and not speaking for anybody, but is to share our plight with similar tribes, similar people. If we team up as a team, love each other, we can learn from you folks, from what you've gone through, that can help us. Yeah. And so help all of us to move forward. Imua.
Any other questions?
I was just gonna mention, in order to feel joy, you have to have opposition, right? You gotta know what it feels like on the other side of the fence, which I really did. But that hardship that I felt, or the hardship that we feel in our activism, sometimes it's a hard journey, and I know that. That's the opposition part, and that it strengthens you, though, right? There's joy afterwards. The joy from it, the experience, the experience of being with our family, going through it, you can never take that back. And so it's something that you can tell your children, the generations to come, that this is what it was like. So opposition can bring joy. That's what it's about too, having the opposite, which is, you never saw me when I was ku'e, but I get ku'e. In fact, I have a couple of videos, and I was like, "Don't put that one on. They're going to judge me with that," because I'm being nice right now. But it does bring that part of you inside of you, and that's the strength. And it's okay. It's okay to bring it out, because we can't bottle it up. That's all part of healing too. Sometimes, like what Laura did, she yelled it out, and I don't know if that's part of her culture is to let it out that way, but it is healing. Yeah. So mahalo for having us here. We really do appreciate it. Mahalo.
I guess I didn't share about my joy, and I'll kind of, maybe that'll wrap that up. But for me, it's really, like I said in the first session, you folks provide us inspiration, you provide us guidance, and that's very true too for joy. We've experienced settler colonialism, all the things that you saw in this video for almost 2 centuries now, but your ancestors, you folks, have faced this for far longer. And to see the lunchtime celebration, the joy, the music, the dancing, that is fucking amazing. It's liberation. It is the evidence that we are still here. You are still here. That we exist, and that is the best thing we can do to our oppressors is just fucking dance. Yes, I'll leave with that. Lalo.
I mean, I've only been doing this less than a year, but I think my joy comes from flipping the script on everybody. Like, they are putting up all these speed bumps and trying to, you know, oppress and stop at every turn when you can make them have a bad day. That makes me feel good. One of my co-counsel that was Lala's attorney, Ryan Hurley, basically every time he would show up, whether it was for her case or other cases, the other side was like, oh shit. So that, I think them having that feeling and knowing that, you know, we can put up barriers and make life hard for them in return, that it's not a one-way street, I think that's what gives me joy.
Wow.
That's beautiful. So we're gonna end with a yes, teaching everybody to do a aloha. Right? You wanna lead it first?
For aloha oi. Turn.
What you did before.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
So let's have everybody stand.
Yeah.
Lala's gonna lead us in aloha.
And I just wanted to mention too. We talk about aloha, having aloha in the aloha way, like love. But there's that aloha too inside of us, like yeah, love. Like you're gonna love what you do and you yell at that person. That's not your land, right? Right? So that's the love that you have for the land. So aloha. When I'm gonna say it this time, I'm gonna say aloha.
Hello.
There you go. And that's how it starts. Mahalo everyone.
All of you, thank you. Thank you.